Hi, freelance moms, and welcome to another call around our business case study that we're doing with Heather. Hopefully, you've had a chance to meet Heather. Hopefully, you've had a chance to work on your business plan because we talked about that in our last conversation. Today, our focus is going to be on our ideal client and discovering who that is, and then also our unique selling proposition. I hope you can see my writing there. And today I actually wanted Heather to meet with a special coach, an actual expert coach. So this is the first time that she's actually going to be meeting with a coach. And I invited a woman named Jamie Tardy, who you might know actually as the eventual millionaire. She's interviewed, I don't know, 100 plus millionaires and entrepreneurs. She's just like you. She's a mom. She actually makes money in all kinds of different ways. She's a business coach. She actually sells information products and services online. And she's actually going to add book author to her list of accomplishments because she's coming out with a book pretty soon. So I can't wait to buy that. But here is a special opportunity for everyone to actually watch a actual coaching call. And this is for free. I don't know anywhere on the web where you can actually watch a coach actually take an actual client through something specific. So what I would love for you to do is, as Heather is going through this coaching call, trying to figure out her unique selling proposition and her ideal client and all kinds of other things that they talk about. I want you to be able to think about these same questions and answer these same questions for yourself so you can get the most value out of it, and so you can feel like this is actually a coaching call for you as well, because coaching, as you know, is not cheap, and to have an hour, or I forgot how much time we spent, probably around 40 minutes, but this 40-minute call is actually a free coaching call for you as well. So enjoy, and let's get started. Are you excited, Heather?
I am. I am thrilled because, to tell you the truth, I mean, Lisa, you and I talked a couple weeks ago, and my husband and I had sat down, and he's a business owner. So he's like a recent business. He opened a franchise.
Oh, wow.
2 or 3 years ago. So he's like fresh into this process, and he's trying to help me get to where I need to go. But I mean, you know how it is, like working with your husband, and you don't always take their advice because you think of them as not the expert because they're your husband. So I'm kind of just been all over the place, and he sat down with me a couple months ago and we went through some goals and where I want to be, and he was giving me ways that I could do that, and I'm still so all over the place. I'm keeping active. The one thing I am proud of myself about is that I'm keeping active. Like there are so many women who have kids, and then they just think like, there goes the college education, there goes all of the learning that they had out the door because they devote so much time to their kids. So I'm very proud of myself for just being motivated enough to want to do this. But at the same time, I feel like everything is just so all over the place with where I am right now compared to where I want to be. And so I'm very excited to just finally have like some attainable goals set, and to be talking to the experts who have gone through this and been through this with clients. And so hopefully I will be on the right path.
Yeah, no, you are.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just
Awesome.
by doing this. Exactly. No, So Jamie, Heather, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
thank you
for
so much
having
for the
us.
opportunity.
Oh, awesome. This is going to be great. So today I have Jamie on, as I talked about this previously, and she's going to help you kind of set your vision for your business today, and then also talk about some of the goals that you have, 1 year and 3 months, so you can actually kind of visualize what you need to get done so you can actually reach your goals. So Jamie, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lisa. I really appreciate it too. So, are you ready, Heather?
I am ready.
Woo, okay. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what I do with my personal clients, one-on-one clients, so that way you have a really good general idea on where to start. Because a lot of the times you're like, I'm going to start a business, and I know a little bit about your background already that Heather will let me know about. But you get all excited, and there's so many things you can do, and you could be doing 1,000 things, and you're trying to do 1,000 things, and you're a mom, and everything just sort of adds up, and it gets a little overwhelming and crazy. Am I wrong about that? Okay.
No, you're right on.
Good. Now, I have 2 small children too, you know, so I understand exactly what it's like. It's kind of insane. And so, I know, kind of, right? Totally. So one of the things that I really want to do is make really realistic goals for you. So that way we don't feel bad, because as moms, one of the things we'll do is we're like, I'm really motivated. I'm really excited. I want to do all this stuff. And then the kids are sick and you're like, but I can't because I have to do this. And then you just feel mommy guilt 1,000 times over, either when you're there or when you're not there. Like you feel work guilt when you're with the kids, and then you feel mommy guilt when you're not. And I want to try and eliminate that as much as we can. So when you're on your business, you want to really know what you're working on when you're in it, right? Okay. And then when you're out of your business, you can actually enjoy your kids and not be like, oh, let me check my phone because I forgot to send this email. And
sure,
so,
and that's exactly where I am right now. Constantly checking email, constantly, you know, checking internet stuff. So,
and doing as much as you can, because you feel like you want to be busy and there's stuff you want to do and you need to get done, and it's hard. So one of the things that I want to do in regards to, we're going to figure out your vision, so that way you have this idea on where it is. Now, I interview millionaires. I've interviewed over 100 plus millionaires, and you wouldn't really think that, like, visioning, because that sounds, and to me it's funny, it sounds a little woo-woo, right? I'm very analytical and all that fun stuff. But so many over and over and over again it comes up, like visioning is a key piece, because if you can't really envision where you're going to be in the future, you're not going to get there, right? You don't have that map of knowing where you want to be. So we're going to talk about that first. Then we're going to get a 1-year goal, like down, so that way you have an idea, what do you want it to look like in a year, and that way we can dial it back to 3 months, because really we cannot predict the future. I mean, of course, we all wish that we could predict the future. That would be so much easier. But what we can sort of do is figure out, okay, where do we want to be in the next 3 months? And the reason why we need to know that is to know what we need to do right now to hit that. So you can ignore some of the other opportunities, the other things that are coming up. Do I do social media now? Do I not? All that fun stuff is based on what your goal is, and if it's going to bring you closer to your goal. So you can ask the question, okay, is this something that I need to do in order to hit my goal? No, I don't think so. So don't do it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
It starts to clear the decks a little bit more.
Is that, I mean, obviously when my business is up and running and, you know, I've kind of got a system for things, I can engage in more of that stuff that I kind of put off.
Definitely. 1,000 times over, definitely. Once, as a very beginning business owner, you start going and you don't really know what's going to work. And that's one of the hardest things for any business owner. And it's so funny because everybody goes through this. They don't know what's going to work, so they have to test. So they test marketing techniques, they test networking, they test all these things, and you don't really know. So it feels like you're not really making progress at first, which is where it's kind of a pain in the butt. And
I'm finding that there's like Twitter, there's Facebook, there's LinkedIn, there's so many opportunities, and none of these things have a fee associated with them. So why wouldn't you want to take advantage of it? But at the same time, I find out that, like, I find myself getting stressed out because I'm not posting to Twitter as much as I probably should. I'm not on LinkedIn as much as I should, just because between doing my current freelance work and trying to keep up with all of that and the kids, it's, you know, the social media kind of falls by the wayside. And so once every 2 months, I might post something on Twitter. And then, of course, that's doing nothing to enhance my image or my reputation, because people see these random posts. Yeah. And they're by no means regular or, you know, have any purpose to them. So,
and then there's guilt on all that of going, well, if I was doing that, then I would be having more results, but I don't have the time to do that. There's always the time, money, all that fun stuff. So we're going to get really clear today. So I'm going to ask you a ton of questions, just so you know. Okay. So question number 1 is sort of give me a picture of what it looks like right now. So I know you and Lisa probably chatted a little bit about this, but how many hours a week are you working doing freelance? How many do you have to work on this where you are right now? And just a little snapshot on where things are right now.
Right now, I'm doing, I'd say, a steady stream of freelance work. Of course, you know, freelance work varies from week to week. You know, one week I might be doing, 25 hours worth of work. The next week I might be doing like 2 hours worth of work. The past couple of weeks I've been doing a lot of website content projects, which take up a considerable amount of time. but I also do some freelance writing for local community magazines.
Oh, nice.
It just seems to be like a steady stream, which is good. I picked up another health and fitness client. I'm in the running for a project with Harvard, telemedicine. But it's all random. There's no rhyme or reason. I was telling Lisa, I go on to freelance type websites where you bid on projects. You're competing with other freelancers. There's just getting my name out within the community, so people, word of mouth within my community. So right now it's actually kind of nice, because it seems like when one project is ending, I'll get an email like the next day saying, can you work on this for me? So it's a nice steady stream.
Nice.
But and I'm beginning to get a lot more health and fitness projects, which is my area of expertise, and where my interest lies. But I guess the part that's most frustrating is that there's no rhyme or reason to these projects. There's no, a lot of what I'm doing is just like writing stuff, like the website content. I might spend like 4 or 5 days writing a physician's website. Okay, here you go, here's the content. And then the next week they'll come back and say, hey, can you do another physician's website? So what I'd really like to do is get a client that is a steady client, that I can work with, that I can manage like their website writing, their media relations.
Okay.
If they need a newsletter, I can have a client. When I was in an office setting, I would work with clients and do all of their PR and all of their writing. So right now it's like the projects are coming in piecemeal, and there's no like the community magazine is a steady client, but I'm constantly working on new assignments. So it's not a steady client in terms of I get to do a whole vast array of different types of projects for them. I'm just doing, I'm just turning out articles.
Okay.
And okay, here's another 500-word article for you. Here's another 1,000-word article. And then it's, done and on to the next one.
So what is your ideal client? So out of all these things, I love that you are getting clients. Like, that's amazing. And we can definitely talk about that too. But I'm assuming you want to probably have your ideal client also.
I do want to have my ideal client. Right now, I'm kind of taking clients the way I have been because it pays the bills, essentially.
Yep.
It gets me the printer ink or the printer paper or the computer stuff that I need to be able to further my business. So right now, as I'm looking to build some sort of steady business based in an area that I want to work in, these other clients are paying the bills. So I keep the work coming in that regard. But my ideal client would be a physician, like a general practice physician, somebody I can start as a base client and then expand. As Lisa and I were talking about, starting with an internal medicine type of doctor, and then I can branch out into specialties. I worked in healthcare public relations for between 15 and 20 years, doing media relations, doing all the writing, the newsletters, the brochures, the special events, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I like this field. I would just meet with doctors on a regular basis just to see what they had going on. Are they running any clinical trials? Are they having any papers come out in major medical journals? Are they, what are they doing? Are they doing new surgical procedures? So my ideal client would be a doctor I could meet with on a regular basis just to go in and say, okay, hey, let's talk about what your promotional needs are. Do you need a monthly newsletter? What have you got going on that we could pitch to the media? What kinds of good patient stories do you have? So my idea is to start with like a general practice physician, a private practice, because I'm the physicians associated with major medical centers I'm finding are a lot harder to get to just because they have their own PR and marketing departments that they filter everything through. So I would like to establish ultimately a network of physicians, of private practice physicians.
Nice. Okay, and they're the person that can say yes. Also, they usually own the practice, so they know that they need marketing needs. And do you call yourself a PR agency? Do you call yourself a marketing agency? Are you only doing PR for people? It sounds like you do quite a few different things.
I call myself a freelance writer and PR specialist.
Okay.
Just because I'm if it means sitting down and writing a press release and then being able to pitch that to the media, and or I can also sit down and write a newsletter or website content.
Okay.
The areas where I need to call in other people are like the photography needs or the videography needs or graphic designers. That's all outside of my area of expertise.
Okay.
But I have a team, that I would call on. I have a graphic designer who I worked with regularly, who I could call on and say, hey, can you design this newsletter for me? I write it, you design it, we give it to the client. So that's what I'm calling myself, as a freelance writer and PR specialist.
Okay. And yeah.
So it can encompass
both of the things that you do, definitely. Okay. So if you were to, do you have any clients that are like that right now, like a general physician that you've sold into what you do with PR?
I don't.
Okay.
I did have, up until a couple months ago, I was working regularly with a client, a personal training studio client in Georgia.
Okay.
I was doing all of their website writing for them. I was doing, anytime they needed a flyer done, I would do that. Anytime they needed a press release. So I was doing a lot of the stuff I like to do with them. The only thing is that I like, in terms of media relations projects, I like to work with local clients, just because I have a relationship with the local media, so I know who to go to. And it's a lot easier for me than just blindly calling some reporter in Atlanta, Georgia, and saying, hey, do you want to do this story on my client? Plus, I like to see the end result on the TV as it's airing, instead of on the internet, the next day or whatever.
Okay. Perfect. This really helps hone in on what you want, and then what we need to provide to them. Now, I know we still need to talk about goals, but just in general, when you're telling me who your ideal client is, and that it's physicians and they're looking for this, we need to hone in and make sure that that's what they want, and then what the results are that they want. Because when you go to sell anyone having to do with this, and if you want to sell longer term, like on retainer, or so that way you can have predictable income, because of course we all want predictable income. As a coach, I always ask for at least 6-month engagements, and hopefully you can probably do something like that too, because PR isn't something that you can do one of and be like, yay, we're done. So being able to sort of sell something like that would probably be better for you too, to have the predictable income. So what we really need to do is find out what physicians, how they are getting their needs met right now in that same thing for general practice, and how you can do it way better. So it's almost a no-brainer for, if you were to go in to talk to a general physician and go, this is what I provide, and this is what I cost every single month for 6 months, so we can really build out your plan, and these are some of the results that you can expect. And that's makes it a much easier sell. And we can talk about sales at a different time, but just in general, we really need to hone in on what that thing is that you're selling, so we can get really clear on that, so people can say yes to it. Like right now, you have people coming to you and they say, I want this, and you're like, I can do that. But instead, we want to be able to tell them, as the expert, because you are the expert, what they need and how you can help them get these results that they want. And of course, I'm sure that probably makes sense for you, right?
It does. And you know what I noticed as you were talking, the one thing that I constantly run into, especially in with healthcare professionals and doctors particularly, is the need for education. Like they just don't understand what PR is. To them, it's paying $500 to run an ad in a newspaper. Of course, I don't want to work with the physicians who are running ads in papers, because to me, physicians who run ads in papers are kind of ambulance chasers, so to speak.
But one of the things that's really interesting, though, that you're saying is, if they don't know what you do, it's going to be very hard to sell it to them. So one of the things that, when I asked you what you did, most of the time, I work with a lot of small business owners. I actually have 2 doctors as clients of mine too, so I sort of have a general idea a little bit on what they need. And one of the funny things is that they want more patients, right? That's their end goal,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
My end goal is
Yep.
more patients. How can you get me more patients? So calling yourself, doesn't really matter what you call yourself, to tell you the truth, as far as PR expert or I wouldn't call yourself a freelance writer, because I don't think that will jive with what they specifically want, like on your website or anything like that. I would actually call yourself something to do with marketing, because general physicians understand what marketing is really, really
Okay.
easy. And PR,
Like a marketing consultant?
yeah, marketing
Okay.
consultant would be great. Sounds expensive too. We like that. So the PR specialist, a lot of the times I'll talk to small business owners and they're like, I paid $5,000 for this PR person to do this thing, and then I didn't get what I wanted. So there's also a negative connotation a lot of times. I just got off the phone with one of the millionaires that I interviewed who said that exact same thing an hour ago. So it's kind of funny how PR sort of has a little bit of a bad rap too, especially if we don't understand what it is. So calling yourself something like a marketing consultant will help in that, because if your whole goal is in the end run to get them more patients, you're then talking their language a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Okay. Sure.
Okay, great. So then let's talk a little bit about, and I know we don't have too much time to dive into this, but actually, Lisa, what I'd recommend is probably getting a pricing expert to come in. I could probably do that right now, but I don't think we have enough time to really go in deep.
Yeah.
I think you should really end up having someone go in deep on what those packages are that you're gonna provide to doctors. Because if you can go to somebody and go, I have 2 packages, you can go for this package or this package. Actually, it's really good to have 3 packages. You have the low one, a middle one, and a high one. And 9 times out of the 10, people don't want the crappy one, but they don't really want to afford the expensive one, so they go with the middle one most of the time. So do something like that, so that way you can say, okay, it's on retainer, it's got to be for at least this many months, therefore you have predictable income, and really figure out what your pricing packages are ahead of time. It's all a test, right? So you're going to make something up, you're going to go to a doctor and you're going to show it to them, and they might be like, oh my gosh, I can't afford that. Or they might be like, oh, no problem. But you won't really know exactly what they need until you start chatting with them. So one of the ways, even before you do pricing, you might want to talk to a doctor, even if it's just a friend of a friend, where you can go, what do you need? And really start to validate this idea. We know that they need this stuff because they need more patients, and you can help them get more patients. But what do they actually need? Right? I actually have a dentist as one of my other clients, and so it's really interesting to sort of go, well, they do mailings, they do this stuff, they don't want to spend the money on that stuff, but they know they need to. All that sort of stuff is all part of marketing, and so find out where you fit in terms of all of that, if that makes sense. Right?
Sure.
So that's sort of an action item that maybe Lisa can sort of put on the back burner for you, really finding out what these ideal clients want from you. That way you can provide it. It's a much more easy sell when you go, you want this? Here. And then they'll pay you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about goals so we can get into that. So now that we have a good general idea on who we want to talk to, your niche is specific to physicians, that's your ideal client, we already know that. Makes it a lot easier to find them too, right? Doctors associations, all that other stuff, they're a little bit easier to get a hold of. That's why it's really good, and for anyone listening, that's why it's really good to niche, because it makes it easier to find where your people are. Right? If you say everybody, you can just do a generic ad somewhere and hope that people do it. And that's just most of the time a waste of your advertising dollars. So whether you do advertising or not, knowing where your ideal people are, really, really important. So once we have this idea, do you know about thinking long term, that vision that we talked about before? How big of a company do you want? Do you always want to be self-employed? Do you want to have a team of people working for you? What are you really looking for?
Short term, I want to be self-employed, just because it makes things more manageable in my life. My kids are still little. I've got a few years yet before they're in school full time. So having a team to manage, in addition to a house and a husband and kids, would just put me over the edge right now. So I'm enough to handle as it is. I think probably I've always wanted to work with an intern, like a college intern, a journalism major or a communications major, somebody I could just turn to and just to give experience to. And at use as sort of my guinea pig, so to speak, to see how my managing skills would be to, somebody who I would eventually employ either part or full time.
Okay.
So I would kind of use an intern as much as a test for me as it would be for them to see how they would do on the job.
Nice. Well, I have one quick question then too. How old are your kids right now?
4 and 2.
Okay, nice. It's so funny because listening to what you said, that's exactly what I did when my kids were younger. Now they're going into school next year, but I've been ramping up this whole time going, okay, once they're in school, then I can do a lot more. So I know exactly what you're going through.
I don't want to be in an office setting when they're in school. Given that my husband owns a business and it's not really negotiable that he needs to be at work. So I don't want to put myself in a situation where, the kid gets sick or, has the talent show or, and then I have to leave the office to go. I need something that I want to always be able to be there for them, but still have this to do for myself.
Yes.
Because like I said, it's a college education and it's, 20 years of my life has been put into this. Yeah. I don't just want to say, okay, I'm giving this all up now just for the sake of just raising a family. And, while that's important, it's also, I feel it's important for mothers to be able to do things for themselves and make themselves, do things that make them feel important too.
Yeah. I remember I turned into Finley's mom and I was like, I don't want to just be Finley's mom. Nobody knew my name. And so that self-identity is really tough, especially because I had a corporate job and all that fun stuff. And I was like, I need to do something. And so I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, you don't realize, before, when I was pregnant with my first son, I didn't realize what people were saying when they told me to get ready to give up my identity. And I thought, that's crazy. How could you give up your identity? And then all of a sudden I was Matthew's mom, and now I'm Matthew and Luke's mom. And, all of the birthday invitations, all of the cards that we get are addressed to Matthew and Luke. And I'm like, okay, well, what about Matthew and Luke's mommy?
I know. My name's Heather. I was like, I'm Jamie, just in case you didn't remember, even though we've seen each other every single day. I know exactly how you're going. And so my goals were very similar to yours. So I wanted to only work 20 hours a week when they were younger, and then build something, right? To have something for myself when they got into it. So what are you looking for when they are in school? Like now we're thinking visioning, when they're in school, like what do you want to have built up over that time?
I want to have a regular business built up, something that I could sit down at my desk. Now, if I didn't have them, I could sit at my desk for 4, 5, 6 hours straight, just grinding out projects. So I want to be able to do that. And I do that in spurts now, which is kind of frustrating because you get into a groove and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I've been sitting at my desk for 2 hours. I need to go pay some attention to my kids. So, it takes a lot longer just to get things done. So I would like to just be able to have like that business where I could, while they're in school, the 6, 7, 8 hours when they're in school, I want to be working at my desk. I want to have an office job, but have it at my home office.
Definitely.
As opposed to go.
Yeah, because then you can be home. I'm on my 3rd floor at my house. You know what I mean? This is the office in the house. So it's totally doable. And I loved how you sort of had really good expectations in that because I don't have as much time, it's going to take me a little bit slower to build stuff, but I've got years before my kids go to school and I need like a regular thing. So what you want right now is to really get something that's a little more predictable, I'm sure, so you know what's coming up when, because it's easier to predict, especially with kids and everything. And that you really hone in on the systems, what it takes to get new clients, so that way you can start churning that out once you're ready to do that. So what we're doing in these first few months is really a lot of testing and figuring out, so that way later it'll be easier, right?
Sure.
So why don't you tell me about then the next year? Because what we'll do is we'll try and get some metrics for the next year, and then we'll dial it back to 3 months, so we can really look short term in as far as what you need to be doing right now.
I think in the next year, Lisa and I had talked about maybe getting together 2 to 3 clients before the end of this year. That might even be a little bit out of expectation. I mean, it might be a little too aggressive. I'd be happy by the end of the year. I'd be happy with just one regular client, just one person who comes to me for all of their PR needs. So in the next year, I would be happy with, like, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 regular clients. Because I would still, I'm anticipating, and this could change, that I would not have to give up my other random projects that come in altogether, because I enjoy it. I enjoy writing for the community. It's a good way to get my name out into the community by writing for these magazines. One of the major healthcare systems in Pittsburgh has me writing their ads. They do like advertorials in the community magazines. So it's, I don't want to give that piece of it up altogether. Plus it's, it's extra money. So I think 3 to 4 like full clients, plus, doing all of the random projects that may come in at a moment's notice, is plenty, or would be plenty.
Great. That's awesome and very, very realistic. Usually when you're trying to figure out all this stuff, there's a lot of foundational pieces. So sometimes the beginning, the very first client or two can take a little bit longer than normal. But in general, if you're looking for 4 clients out of the rest of the year, that gives you 1 every 3 months to get, which is pretty doable.
Exactly. Well, and I'm thinking too, once I get the first client, then it'll be easier to get the second, the third, the fourth client. Just because I'm going to be using the first client essentially as, trial and error. So that I'm anticipating when I get that second client or the third client or the prospective client, that I will have a better idea of how to approach them and what to say, and, I'll have my pricing packages all sorted out, and, so it's just getting that first real client that I envision being the toughest.
Definitely. And sometimes it is. And that's totally cool. And it sounds like you're ready to do the work that it takes to do that too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful. So that's the thing too. So you're really working on 2 things, right? You're working on your business, which means, marketing and selling and all that stuff, but you're also working on your product and service, right? So you want to make sure you're delivering to your client what they can have. You have tons of experience, but specifically with physicians right now, you don't have a ton of testimonials, so it's probably going to be a little harder to sell. You don't know exactly, step 1 we do this, step 2 we do this, step 3 we do this. It's going to be playing around with it as we go. Is that correct?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I have, now you mentioned it, I do have a lot of testimonials that I post on my website, but none of them are physician related. Now, what I could do just to get that initial physician testimonial is go back to a physician that I worked with full-time in office.
Yes.
Go back to one of the physicians I worked with at the hospital and say, like, hey, I'm launching my own business, and not only approach them for a testimonial, but maybe, like, do you have any physician friends you can turn me on to?
Perfect. Yes, definitely. I highly, highly recommend having testimonials from your exact ideal clients, because it makes it much easier to get those ideal clients when they know that other people have done it and it worked really well. So definitely that's action item, number 2, to really make sure we have a testimonial. And then asking for referrals is huge. Of course, doctors know other doctors, and it's much easier to sort of get past the gatekeeper if you get an intro and referral. Definitely. So then what we're going to talk, so we talked about a year, we talked about 3 months, so you're looking for 1 client within the next 3 months. And what you just said right there is really good action item to go, okay, now I know I'm going to go talk to him and I'm going to ask for referrals. Okay? And so what are some other things that we can do to really make sure, and I might actually give this to you, I do actions, right? So whenever I have clients, I make sure that they have actions to go away with. And so for you, one of the things that I would do is try and think of this next month. Right? We have the 3-month goal. We want 1 client. What needs to happen this next month in order to make that 1 client happen? Right? And I think we'll talk about the sales process so I can later, so we can sort of go over that in general. But what I want from you is a 1-month action plan. And in that action plan, what are those things that are really going to get you to talking to as many people as humanly possible that might turn into a client? Right, so you're really focused on that one thing. Now I know you have kids and other projects and all that other fun stuff, but when you're working on this part of your business, that's what we should be working on. And knowing in advance the day before what you need to work on. This is one of the key tips that I give to everybody, but moms especially, I have to do this too, is I need to know the day before what I'm doing the next day. Because as soon as you're like, I have 5 minutes, okay, what can I do? I don't know. And you're looking around, then it goes away. Then the 5 minutes is gone. And
exactly. No, that's exactly how I plan my weeks.
Oh,
what
good.
am I doing? I sit down at night and I think like, okay, what can I do with the kids tomorrow? What do I need to do work-wise for me tomorrow? What do I need to do around the house tomorrow? So I kind of, I still get those moments of like, oh my God, the kids are playing when I didn't expect them to play. What can I do? And I'm looking around the house thinking what needs cleaned or what do I need to work on? But for the most part, I need to plan my days because it's now that they're at home, especially for the summer, they're home a lot more than they would be during the school year. It's harder to get stuff done. So, and I find too that if I know that I need to be sitting at my desk and working for an extended amount of time, like having this call, for instance, it helps me to prepare them. You guys need to find something to do. You need to be playing downstairs in the playroom. You can turn on Nick Jr. You can do just I need to prepare them and give them as much notice as possible so that they know that mommy is in her office with the door closed. She is working. One of the hard things that I've encountered since my husband goes to work and I've been at home is that, well, mommy can't possibly be working because she's at home.
She's here.
Daddy leaves and goes to work. So I'm trying, I'm even working with a behavioral therapist on this aspect of it. How do I teach them that just because mommy is home, she isn't readily accessible, unless it's an emergency, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But I find that helping to plan days in advance, the things that are going on, it helps me to put my mind at ease too, because I get to plan activities with them. So I know that, okay, at 1 o'clock we're going to Matthew's friend's house for a play date until 3. So if it helps to put any guilt to rest. Because I want to make sure I incorporate enough time with them in the day.
Well, I think what's one of the really good things about moms just in general, we're really good at making every second count, right? Like there's always something that we can be doing, and it sounds like you're really good at that piece, which is great. So knowing in advance what you need to work on is perfect. So all you'll be doing is sort of plugging in the stuff that Lisa or I or whoever gives you stuff, so that way you know exactly the things that you need to be working on too. But you're already doing all the other pieces, so congratulations on that. Do you feel like you got out of it? So what we're doing right now is we're figuring out how do we get one client? That's your goal, one client, right? If you want to associate revenue around that, you can, or if you just want to say one client, no matter what it is, as long as it's a longer term commitment. Is that how you want to?
That's pretty much because I don't want to not work with somebody. If it's my ideal client, especially, I don't want to say like, I'm not going to work with you because you're only going to give me $5 an hour, whatever. I mean, I feel like at this point, the name recognition and just the reputation building is more important than setting a drop dead price. If you don't pay me this exact amount of money that I want, then I can't work with you. I mean, at this point, I just need to get that one client and do a good job, and then hopefully word of mouth will take over from there.
And then you can always raise your prices. It's funny, I tell people this, but even my story, when I started coaching, I was charging like $25 an hour, you know what I mean, or $25 a month, I think, when I very, very first started, and now I charge hundreds and hundreds of dollars an hour, and it's just one of those things that'll progress as you know your market, as people realize that, wow, she really knows what she's doing, I should really pay her more, and that makes it a lot easier. So I'm really glad you have that attitude right now, and not going like, well, I don't think so, because that'll repel some of the opportunities that you might be able to have. So great. So then you have action items for definitely try and get that pricing strategy figured out, and hopefully Lisa can help you out with that. And then talk to your physician friends. Anyone that you know right now that can give you a testimonial and give a couple referrals would be great.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, awesome. Well, this was great. So you have some action items that you can do in, I guess, the next few weeks. And then we're going to bring Jamie back to actually hone in on some different areas for your actual sales strategy so we can get more detailed into that. So this is awesome. So do you feel like you can achieve all those things the next time we talk?
Okay. I think, and Jamie, I love the fact that you're a mom of 2 kids. You're like, you were where I am right now. So that helps tremendously. As opposed to talking to somebody who has no kids and who devotes 24/7 to work.
Yes.
So the fact that you have been through what I'm going through right now is a huge help. And I mean, what is manageable and what's not manageable at this point, as far as, kids go and work and how to manage both of them. So yeah, I think these couple of action items are definitely manageable in the next couple of weeks, and fingers crossed, hopefully this physician will get back to me and, I can start the process.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't Jamie great?
She is.
She has
She's
a gift,
very wonderful.
I tell you. We'll get clear on exactly what they need to do. So it's awesome. And it was fun for me to watch this because, just watching you get clear based on our first conversation that we had. So it's really good to see. I can already see light bulbs going off in your head right now. And
they were. And Jamie, I have to be honest with you. When before we started the call, I was thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to be dressed in like a 3-piece suit with just like dressed and I'm looking in my closet looking for like my best shirt that I can wear. And I'm like, okay, but I'm just a freelancer. I don't have these work clothes anymore.
Oh, that's why we don't work in corporate anymore. I want to wear whatever I want to wear.
That's why we just get this part of our body.
I know.
I have shorts.
Yeah, you don't want to see the sweat shorts that I have on.
It's funny. I have a bunch of shirts over there. For every time I do a new interview, I just change shirts.
Well, that's what I had on. I went to the gym this morning, and I wasn't even thinking about this when I was at the gym, getting a shower and changing to come home, and I had on this ratty old T-shirt. The kids and I were at the park, and I looked down. I'm like, I can't go in this.
I'm right there with you.
Or something.
I understand 1,000 times. You can still be successful and do what you want. Yay! Aren't we lucky?
Now we know how news anchors dress, right?
Exactly. Well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Jamie. Thank you so much, Heather. And we're gonna get back on soon, and we'll talk about some other things for you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jamie, so much, and thank you, Lisa, for setting this up. This was great.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
All right.